Okay, hello everybody. How you guys doing? My name is Mark. This is Why I Hate the World. What's happening? So, we are continuing here a little unannounced, but like I said on Saturday, I wanted to revisit Tucker Carlson because he is a weasel. However, life has a way of getting in the way of stuff because unfortunately it looks like less than 10 days before our after our last massively huge shooting, there's been another mass shooting. This time in Texas at an elementary school. I'm sure you've all heard about this. It's all over the news. It's everywhere, and it's utterly horrible. Um, I like how we really didn't even get a chance to like get over the last one yet. Like the last one was still a big thing in the news. You know what I mean? And we're already continuing with another one. I just love how that happens. Anyway, folks, so yeah, pretty horrible stuff. This guy, he was this time it's another 18-year-old kid, just like the last mass shooter actually. And oh, am I on the long? I'm on the wrong layer here. Let's undo that. There we go. So this particular guy does not look like he was a white supremacist though, but we don't know enough about him. Looks like he was the typical sort of loner kind of person. Um, his name was Salvador Ramos. He was 18. He was bullied apparently a lot while he was in school. Didn't have a lot of much in the way of friends. Apparently, the people at school who would he would often get in fights with, stuff like that. Um, and they actually called him a future school shooter as a way of like taunting this guy. So kind of fits that. I know exactly the sort of profile, the sort of, sort of outsider, somebody that everybody picked on, that kind of guy. Looks like this is who this dude was. Um, he apparently was also very much into guns, and he got into a fight with his grandmother because he essentially dropped out of school is what it looks like. Looks like he stopped going to school and still had a couple of friends and was messaging one of his friends, showed him the guns that he bought. So one thing to keep in mind is that the whenever this kind of thing happens, the right wing always tries to make excuses about, why we shouldn't do anything when it comes to gun control. They always try to make excuses, and one of the things they always say is that, well, criminals will just get their guns anyway. If we outlaw guns, criminals will just buy, steal them or whatever. Yeah, maybe there's some truth to that, but it seems like every time we see a mass shooting like this, seems like the people who perpetrate these things always usually get their guns legally. I've yet to hear of any mass shooting like this where they either didn't buy the guns themselves or steal them from a relative who like had the guns readily available. You know, seems like that's what always happens when it comes to these mass shootings. It's like very rare do you hear about someone who stole like, like a criminal who like broke into a store and stole a bunch of guns and then later on went and, you know, engaged in a mass shooting afterwards. It's always somebody who like was either a gun nut, who was like really into guns and most of the time buys them legally or gets them some other way. So that's crazy shit. Anyway, he was able to buy his guns legally because in Texas you can apparently buy rifles and long guns when you're 18. There was a law that was changed last September, September 1st, 2021, in order to allow, it used to be 20, you used to have to be 21 years old in order to buy rifles and long guns in Texas. Now you only have to be 18. You know, and kind of there's now, of course, you can't really blame any particular politician for any particular mass shooting event. Like the governor of Texas, what the hell is his name again? Abbott, that guy. He didn't go put the gun inside of this kid's hands and force him to go engage in a mass shooting. Hang on, you know what I need to do? I need to switch chairs because this chair is all squeaky and it's just going to cause lots of noise. I can see it being picked up by the mic, and I'm sure that's annoying people. He didn't force this kid to engage in a mass shooting, but kind of, seems like he helped enable it. I would definitely say that because if this law wasn't in place and this kid actually would have had to wait till he was 21, maybe that might not have stopped it, but maybe it would have. You got to think of it like that. It's like, should we, make it easy for people? Because that's always the excuse the right wing gives. They always say, like, well, you can't stop mass shootings. They're just going to get their guns some other way. Yeah, maybe they will, right? There we go. Had to switch chairs. Maybe they will get their guns some other way, but does that mean that we need to make it easy for them? Does that mean we need to wrap them up in a in a in a present with a bow on it and present them the guns on a silver platter? No. Okay. So, and I'm sure there's the parents of 14 children right now in Texas who I'm sure would agree with me, and that's a sad thing to say, but it's true. It's these human lives are gone now, right? It's this is the direct result of bad policy. You could put it that way. That's one thing that could have been done in order to stop this latest school shooting. That's one thing that could have been done was to keep that restriction in place. But, I guess we'll never know now if it would have been effective or not, right? Of course, the Republicans aren't going to do jack shit in order to, you know, do anything to limit gun violence, right? Because every time we have a mass shooting, what do they always say? They try to blame it on everything but, you know, the fact that this guy had a gun, right? They'll blame it on education. They'll blame it on um, mental illness. They'll blame it on the fact that we don't allow prayer in schools anymore. They'll blame it on, Democrats and the liberals and trans kids, all this other shit. What's really funny is that in Texas and Louisiana and Florida and all these other places, they've been going balls to the wall and restricting, like, you know, gay rights, restricting the rights of trans students, outlawing trans women from competing in sports, things like that. They got no problem like removing people's like rights when it comes to that thing. When it comes to, how you can express your gender and your sexuality and how open you can be about it in a public square like a school, they got no problem throwing restrictions down there. They got no problem taking away people's rights when it comes to that. But not when it comes to the ability of someone to buy a lethal weapon, stroll into a grade school, and murder 14 people. I think it's 19 people now. It is, I got it written down, 19 children and 2 adults. So that's 21 people. They got no problem with your ability to blow away 21 people. But, I guess if you went into the school with like a book about, I don't know, a gay person, they probably would have had 15 cops there ready to throw you in prison, right? I don't fucking understand people sometimes, man. So anyway, apparently this guy Ramos told people he was going to attack an elementary school. He posted pictures of his guns on Instagram and then apparently reached out to some random girl that he didn't even know who lived in Germany and was like, talking to her and basically told her that he was going to do this. So the warning signs were there. This guy was definitely, the warning signs were definitely there. And I guess, I don't know, how do you stop it? How do you stop it without gun control? Because it doesn't really seem to be a way, as far as I can see. I mean, we've tried every other fucking solution, right? you know. He also said that he threw dead cats at people's houses, apparently. So I don't know. I'm getting a little. We don't really know much about this person, Salvador Ramos. Who we don't know much about his motives or whatever beyond the fact that he was just appears to be just some kind of loner, but getting some pretty heavy incel vibes from this guy, right? From just listening to what he was doing. I mean, he's dead now, so we'll never find out. I mean, they killed him, but I guess we'll never really know. I mean, but yeah, chatting up some random girl who lives a continent away that doesn't even know you and then spilling your guts to her kind of sounds a little incel-like to me, you know. I mean, I don't know. We'll find out in the days to come. Well, as more of, what this guy's motives are and stuff like that come out, we'll find out in the few days to come. And then I'm sure we'll all forget about it because in another week there's probably going to be another mass shooting somewhere. Probably at some grocery store or movie theater or something like that. Some nutzoid is going to go fucking ballistic and open fire on a crowd with a submachine gun, and we'll forget all about this dude. You know, and we'll also forget all about the Buffalo shooter from last week. And we'll forget about all the other dozens of shooters that have happened. You know, what is it, 128 mass shootings or some shit so far this year? I guess it's 130 now, right? Because we have the two from last week. Fucking ridiculous. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Maybe this whole thing should be weird and raw and fleshy like that, not just that portion. Let's just color that whole thing in. Let me make this a little bigger. Anyway, here's something I wanted to show you guys. This is kind of interesting. Let's turn on my monitor here. Turn on. There we go. Nope, wrong one. Turn on that one. There we go. This is, of course, The Onion. The Onion has one joke when it comes to mass shooters, and it's become, let me just adjust that a bit disturbing, their one joke. If you look at the cover of The Onion right now, it's just the same article over and over. No way to prevent this, says only nation where this regularly happens. In the hours following a violent rampage in Texas where a lone attacker killed at least 21 individuals and injured several others, citizens living in the only country where this kind of mass killing routinely occurs, you know, reportedly concluded there is no way to actually prevent this. What actually hit me a little hard, because I saw this on Reddit. I'm like, oh, that's, smirk, it's funny, and, whatever. But then I went to The Onion, and what got me is that every article on the front page of The Onion here is the same thing over and over. No way to prevent this. Here, on the side, down here, news and brief, no way to prevent this, no way to prevent this. Down here, all of these guys, the same article, under more, under everything. That really hit me a little hard there because then you start looking at it and you start seeing the tagline is different each time. Atlanta, Boulder, Colorado, right? That's Columbine, right? Uvalde, Texas, that's last week. Indianapolis, that was a couple weeks ago. It's like, how many times do they got to post this? How many times have they posted this exact same thing with just a different tagline? It's a little chilling, you know. It's I don't know. I mean, at first I was laughing, and now I'm not laughing so much at that because that kind of hit me a little hard. So, anyway, guys, that's a little fucked up. So, before we talk about, this stream is going to be a little shorter. I just want to speak a little bit, and then I want to make fun of Tucker Carlson for a little while because Tucker Carlson is a weasel. But before we do that, I want to speak a little bit about the conservative solution to mass shooting. Mass shootings. What exactly is the conservative solution? See, on the left, and not even the Democrats, because not every Democrat supports this, but the leftists generally, the leftists, the progressives, right? generally support gun control in one fashion or another. Whether it be to some degree or another, there actually is a segment of the left wing in this country which is very pro gun rights, which may surprise a lot of people out there, especially people who are part of the Second Amendment crowd who thinks that everyone on the left is just like a baby eating atheist Satanist who, hates white people and wants to, overthrow America or something. May surprise you that there are a very large number of people on the left who actually do support gun rights, right? But generally, most of us want some form of gun control, some ability for the state to keep guns out of the hands of insane people, right? For the most part. So that, of course, gets thrown right out the fucking window because, the conservatives, even though they represent only roughly 30% of the country, have a stranglehold over the state and federal government in this country, and they say no way because they're completely 100% beholden to the gun lobbyists and have somehow managed to trick themselves into thinking that the Second Amendment is the most, you know, I guess, important amendment. It's the most important thing, down to the point where they literally have only one issue voters who only vote when it comes to Second Amendment stuff, and they don't really give a shit about anything else because they're idiots. But anyway, so yeah, because of the Republicans and their disproportionate hold on power in this country, we have no effective gun control especially on a national level, but in many states, especially when it comes to red states, like I just mentioned, Texas, the laws are so weakened that someone can go buy a long gun or a rifle, not have any training with it, just walk around with it, no permits. You can just carry, you don't even need a permit to open carry anymore. And it's no fucking wonder that, because of this, it's no wonder that something like, I think it was a little over 45,000 people were killed by firearms last year, which is not the highest in the world. The highest in the world is actually Brazil, believe it or not. But pretty goddamn high. It's definitely higher than any other Western developed nation. When you compare it to places like Great Britain, there was something around 300 deaths by firearm. And when I say death by firearm, it means everything. It means suicides, it means robberies, like murders, right? It means like somebody got stuck up in an alley and like the guy shot him. It means like deliberate murders. It means people accidentally blowing their own heads off when they're playing, when a kid's playing with a gun or somebody's cleaning it and they forget to take the round out of the chamber. It means being shot by police with a gun. It's all deaths by firearms, and there's somewhere around 300 or so. And in Canada last year, it was around 600. It's like less than 1,000, which is kind of fucking amazing because Canada has a gun culture just like us. Canada is, I mean, Canadians and Americans are really not that different. We share mainly our culture is essentially shared. They're just a lot more chill in Canada, and their government is not dominated by fucking right wingers. And that's why they have things like universal health care, and they don't blow each other away in schools in Canada. You know, the big joke in Canada, by the way, about the United States is that it's legal to murder people here. I don't know if you guys know that. That's the big joke in Canada. It's like, well, at least it's not legal to murder people up here, eh? Like, right? And where does that come from? It comes from the fact that the murder rate is so fucking much higher in the United States, and people just get away with it constantly. And we do shit like, allow 18-year-old kids to buy guns without background checks and carry them around without fucking permits in some places, right? Excuse me. So, what's the conservative solution? Because the conservatives don't want any of this stuff. They don't want background checks. They don't want any kind of gun control, right, at all. right? They keep blocking it whenever it actually comes up on a national level. They keep blocking it. So basically, any kind of, since the conservatives own the Senate, any kind of gun control legislation that comes up at all is essentially dead on arrival. And it has been for a number of years now, a very long time, right? So what's their fucking solutions? What do they want to do about it? Dinah Cat, thank you for joining. Karen and Ken Goines, thank you for joining. 213 mass shootings so far this year. Yeah, that's embarrassing. And I want to know what's their solution, right? Well, here's a guy on Fox News who thinks that we should basically turn schools into prisons, essentially. Let me just copy this. We'll copy that, and we'll open it. I'll put it down in the thing for you guys. But there's a video, but we're not gonna watch the video. But basically, that's the thing that I was reading there, where this guest says that they should have ballistic blankets to stop children from getting shot. Right. Let me just turn on my other window. Fox guest suggests ballistic blankets to stop children getting shot. We're not going to play no videos. Don't worry about it. And we're going to close that thing there. Former FBI agent has appeared on Fox News suggesting that parents in schools should invest in ballistic blankets and other equipment to keep their children safe. Mm. Maureen O'Connell, former FBI agent. Comments followed the mass shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, South Texas. 21 people, 19 children and adults, and you know the story. Here's the quote. There are companies out there who will do that. They will come out and do threat assessments of the whole school. They will say this is an area of vulnerability and you might want to address this, and this is how we would address it. They have blankets you can put up on the wall that are colorful and beautiful, but they're ballistic blankets. They're ways to obscure the classroom windows so that the shooter can't have target acquisition. Yeah. Wow. Why don't we just let's turn this fucking bullshit off. You know, I mean, why don't we just put like 20-foot walls around every school made out of like 3 foot, concrete blocks and guard towers outside of every school? Why don't we do that? Why don't we put like, machine gun turrets outside of each school and barbed wire and just have like one way in and one way out of the school? And there are already schools out there where you have to fucking buzz your way in, like with a key card and shit, like you're in a fucking like office or whatever. So why not just go the full mile? Why not just put up, chicken wire and barbed wire and like, you know, um, barricades all over the place and like armed security guards with like, and then like dudes in like, sniper nests. Let's just do like the entire thing. Let's turn each school into a little mini prison. And it's got the added benefit too of that, kids won't be able to like ditch at lunchtime and like skip fifth period or whatever. They'll be stuck and they won't be able to like run away and stuff. It'll cut down on truancy also. Fuck it, let's just go all the way. Like, and I mean just think about that. Think about what we just read. Okay. The, you know, the amount of like I guess work that these people are willing to put in instead of taking the obvious step of reducing the amount of actual guns on the streets. Like the amount of like just excuses and bullshit suggestions is absolutely astounding. It really reminds me a lot of someone who's like an alcoholic or addicted to drugs or something, who's like making excuses as to like, you ever meet someone who's actually like a real life drug addict or something, and they always kind of give you that, "Oh, I could stop anytime I want. I'm not really a drug addict. I'm a functioning alcoholic." You ever meet those people? I just need a few, I just have a drink once in a while. I don't like need it to survive or anything, blah, 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 blah. And you start thinking, it's like, dude, it's a fucking excuse. You're just giving me excuses right now. Okay, well, if you can stop, then fucking stop. And then they don't stop, right? Because it's all bullshit. Kind of sounds like that. Kind of sounds like we have an addiction to guns in this country. That our politicians are addicted to the gun money, and the actual people who buy the guns are addicted to the false security that guns give them. You know, now I'm not going to say that there never is or never has been a situation where owning a gun hasn't saved somebody's life, because they have. It has. Okay. And, to be quite honest, if I lived in a sketchy ass neighborhood, I'd probably own a gun too. I don't live in a sketchy neighborhood and I don't have a gun. That doesn't mean I will never buy a gun in my entire life. That doesn't mean I'm anti-gun. Just because you don't like it when madmen go on fucking murder rampages and kill children in fucking like grade schools doesn't mean that you're anti-gun and you want to have every single gun in the fucking world melted down, right? No, I grew up around guns. My dad was a cop, for crying out loud. He was a cop and he was also in like the Air Force, like reserves and shit. So I grew up, with a healthy respect for firearms and what they can do to people. And it's not like I wouldn't even like if there was a law that said, okay, we're confiscating every firearm in the country and we're gonna melt it down. I wouldn't vote for that, you know, because that goes too far in my opinion. But that's different than wanting common sense gun control laws, right? How about an 18-year-old kid shouldn't be allowed to fucking buy them? How about people have to have background checks when they buy them? How about when you buy a gun, your name goes on a list, your gun is registered? Everybody knows where it is. How about, we don't sell things like high capacity magazines. So somebody can like, murder 37 people before they have to reload and shit like that. How about we don't sell certain kinds of ammunition that can pierce like, armor piercing stuff, crap like that. How about we don't sell guns that not only that are like semi-automatic, but guns that cannot be altered or customized to be turned into automatic weapons. That's another thing you always see. It's like, like here's the big fight over assault weapons and assault weapon bans and stuff like that and assault rifles. Any Second Amendment person will tell you assault rifles are already illegal. That machine guns are already illegal, and they are, right? The thing is that you can just buy the, non machine gun version of that particular rifle, and you can make modifications to it in order to turn it into a fully automatic rifle. And that's something that, it's just another way of skirting around the law. Well, how about we just don't sell those kinds of guns in the first place? How about we don't sell civilian versions like the AR-15 of military rifles that can be modified by somebody with the know-how and turned into, submachine guns, right? You know, because it says right to bear arms. It doesn't say what those arms are. Okay. It doesn't say that you have to be able to own every single kind of arm, every kind of weapon. It just says you're allowed to own weapons. Well, you can own certain weapons, and we can, at the very least, take logical steps in order to mitigate harm. Because, we're too chicken shit as a country to go all the way, right? So fuck it. If this is the best we can do, I mean, think about how it could actually benefit things, Like we said, this kid bought his guns legally. Maybe he wouldn't have done it if he couldn't have bought his guns legally, right? Maybe if he had to go undergo a thorough background check, which involved like, say, review of social media, they would have seen him posting all this like creepy shit, and they would have like caught him and realized, hey, this kid shouldn't have guns. He's a fucking ticking time bomb, right? We'll never do that in this country for many reasons, but most of which, primarily of which, is the fact that you know, our government and our government officials, especially on the right wing, are bought and sold by the gun lobby. And that's why we get people like Ted Cruz and Attorney General Ken Paxton. Their solution is adding more police and arming teachers. You know, that's their solution. They want to give guns to teachers so that a teacher who is teaching their kids can shoot one of them if the need arises. That's their solution. Put even more guns in the classroom, right? Now, should be no surprise to you guys that I think arming teachers is the dumbest fucking thing on the face of the earth. Lusa Hedgehog, thank you for joining. You know, like, arming teachers is the stupidest fucking thing ever. You know, not only do you have to worry about, like, the teacher flipping out and blowing away a couple of students, which I know for a fact growing up, a few of my teachers would have done that because we drove them fucking crazy when I was a kid. But you also have to worry about, well, hey, the student stealing the gun, right, from the teacher. The teacher goes out to use the bathroom or something. Kid goes through their desk, snakes the gun, goes on a fucking rampage. It's just a bad idea. It's a bad idea, and it's the kind of idea that, like I said, like an addict would come up with. It's an idea that doesn't actually solve anything, right? You know, I mean, I can understand, like, okay, security guards, all right, I can get that idea. That's fine. Arming teachers is fucking stupid, right? Adding armed security guards, okay, maybe that's a good idea. There actually was an armed security guard at this school though in Texas. That idea was there. There was actually a guy there who was armed with a gun, and he chose to like run and hide. He didn't actually engage, right? Their security guard, their good guy with the gun, chickened out, ran away, and allowed 19 grade school kids to get murdered. So, kind of sounds like that solution's a fucking bust, wouldn't you say? I mean, seriously, man. Here's something I saw. You guys are gonna get a kick out of this shit. This is fucking hilarious and sad and disturbing all at the same time. Here's a article that I found. Let me put this down here. And let's open that up. Let's open that article up here. Let me just say no thank you to the people that want to give me notifications. Here's something from 2018. Superintendent says students are armed with rocks in case of a school shooting. So this is in Pennsylvania, right? In Schuylkill County, superintendent of the Rocky Mountain School District. Basically, in 2018, this was after another mass shooting in 2018. There's so many that, who even knows what it is, right? Um, this guy was. I'll leave this for you guys to read later if you want to read it. It's actually messed up and funny and disturbing, this article. But long story short of that article is that the superintendent of this particular school district was testifying before Congress and said that he put 5-gallon buckets of rocks in every classroom. And the plan is when a school shooter shows up, all the kids grab some rocks and start throwing them at the school shooter. That's their solution. That's their solution, you know. Seems to me, wouldn't it be just so much easier to, like, I don't know, put some gun control in there? I mean, listen to that shit. Oh, the kids are just gonna throw rocks at them. Like it's it's pathetic. It's pathetic and sad that this is what we're reduced to in this country. The kids will have to defend themselves with rocks when a maniac with a fucking Uzi shows up. I mean, it's like we're living in a failed state almost. That's, I said that last time too, because it's fucking true. It's like we live in a failed state. And the reason we live in a failed state is because of conservatives, because of conservative Republicans and conservative Democrats. Don't want to do anything to solve the problems that we have. It's fucking sad, dude. I don't know. I mean, Ted Cruz, his reaction to this. Here's a quote. I was going to open a video of Ted Cruz, but I can't stand looking at that fucking guy. But here's what Ted Cruz said. If you look to the past, we know what is effective, and it is targeting the felons and fugitives and the bad guys. Right. But as sure as night follows day, you can bet there are going to be Democrat politicians looking to advance their own political agenda rather than to work to stop this kind of horrific violence and keep everyone safe. Ted Cruz took this opportunity to blame this all on Democrats, of course. So that's what fucking Ted Cruz has to offer. But what did he just offer? What did he just say? No real solution. His solution there, what did he just say? Right? Target the felons and fugitives and the bad guys, right? Well, this particular shooter had no criminal record, did not have a history of mental illness, because that's another thing they always blame it on mental illness. He wasn't a fugitive. He wasn't a bad guy. He kept himself. He had a job. He was employed. He worked at a Wendy's, right? I mean, he's 18, so fucking, worked at a Wendy's, didn't get himself into any trouble, and was just, bullied and shit all the time and fucking terminally depressed and, you know, kind of sounds like the system failed him. Doesn't sound like he failed at anything. Kind of sounds like the system failed him and nobody really gave a shit about him. And, I don't want to sound like I'm being sympathetic towards the shooter here because, the guy's scum and, there's no excuse for murdering children. But at the same time, kind of sounds like if somebody would have just reached out to this guy, kind of sounds like he had all of the problem symptoms that were out there that everybody says to look out for when it comes to school shooters. And nobody fucking did anything. So he was a child, 18 years old, you know. I mean, barely an adult, right? I'm loath to blame this person. It's not like, this is a much different situation than it was last week when that person was a white supremacist who was working from an ideology of hate, right? But even the guy last week too, in some respect, he was only 18 as well, and he just fell down the wrong rabbit hole. It's like, I mean, fuck, man. Maybe it's a good idea to just, be nice to people once in a while, right? Maybe, we've kind of like lived the last 20 years in this online sort of state where like people have sort of lived their lives on the internet where everyone's a complete and total fucking asshole, you know? And it's all flame wars and people fucking doxing each other and all this other shit, calling each other names and whatever, guys, and insulting, And I mean, I can only imagine what it must have been like to grow up in this environment, because anybody of my generation, if you're over 30, you didn't really grow up with the internet. You were already an adult, back in mostly an adult when it hit big time, when it became like a household item that everybody used. It's like 25 years ago, the internet was still mostly a new thing, right? That only sort of like geeks and shit used, and it didn't really become mainstream until around, uh, turn of the century, right? Maybe a few years after that, maybe 2003 or so. 2002, 2003, right around there, and then it became like a mainstream thing where people started like, what it was? It was with social media when internet usage, became really big, and then social media. Now people live their fucking lives on the internet all day, and I can only imagine what it must be like to just, have grown up in that toxic like sludge of like a of online culture, right? I mean, no wonder there's so many like disturbed kids nowadays who are like searching for meaning. I mean, even the white supremacist guys, like the guy from last week, he's radicalized. Why was he radicalized? Because he's searching for meaning. You know, kind of sad. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing or anything that we can change or fix or even try to address. I guess really what it is just, try to be there for people, try to be nice to people once in a while. Try not to come off as a flaming douchebag when somebody you meet someone that you disagree with for whatever reason. Maybe don't insult somebody when they post something, you know, like immediately. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a solution. I don't have a solution. I'm just an observation. Try to be nice to people, I guess. I know that's not going to do much to not going to solve mass shootings and it's not going to bring anyone back to life and anybody who lost a child this past yesterday or even lost a relative this past week because of these mass shootings. It's not going to console anybody. But I don't know. That's the best that I can fucking think of. Right. Anyway, wanted to talk a little bit about that. We will, of course, now we're going to talk about Tucker Carlson, right? Because Tucker Carlson is a weasel. And this was a lot more relevant a few days ago. Well, I guess it still is relevant, seeing how we just, had another mass shooting, like not even like what's it been 7 days 8 days since the one in Buffalo. So I don't think Tucker Carlson is still off the hook just yet. But what's going on with him? Well, he basically is trying to weasel his way out of the great replacement theory that he's been promoting for years and years and years. So in our last stream we kind of played some video of him, you know, uh, promoting that white supremacist great replacement theory on his show a lot, multiple times. And now he's trying to gaslight everyone into basically saying that it wasn't him, but it's actually the liberals and Democrats who are the ones who are, promoting this theory. That he's not the one that's doing it. It's actually coming from the left. And yeah, so we'll just do this and then we'll end the stream because this is a school night, so I don't want to be like up too late. But we will go through this video. It is only, well, we're not going to watch the whole thing because it's like 15 minutes long. But before we do that, why don't we read a little bit of the comments before we get into Tucker Carlson? Let's see, what do we got here? Let's read some comments. Thank you guys for joining, by the way. Really appreciate it. Modern Monk, thank you for joining. Sean Nillabug, great to see you. So let's see. Karen and Ken going is, like we said before, 213 mass shootings so far this year. Yes, isn't that disturbing and sad that we've had so many? You know, other countries out there, of course, do have mass shootings, but they may have one every couple of years. And then when it happens there, it's like a big deal, like you had the Christchurch shooting in New Zealand. That was a big fucking deal. They haven't had one since, right? you know, they haven't had a massacre like that since. Or Andres Breivik, in where was that? I think it was in Norway. There hasn't really been another one of those recent. You know what I mean? Like that's the difference. It's like, yeah, they do occur in other countries, but in the United States they occur so often. That's like, 213 so far. That's like one every 3 days or some shit like that. You know, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing and sad. Ridiculous. Dynacat loves me. Gun rights have become incompatible with reality. I am beginning to think that gun rights is one of those issues that we're just going to lose. Um, I don't think to be honest, we're ever really going to be able to do much about it. Not really. I mean, I think the best thing that we can hope for when it comes to gun rights is that it stays sort of how it is now, where certain states are able to pass laws and other states aren't. I don't think we'll ever really get any sort of like movement for gun control on the national level. Not happening. So it's just another sort of deepening divide that we have between the states, kind of like how there's some states in this country where you can get an abortion and other states where very soon you won't be able to. Some states in this country where, you're there is a little bit of a social safety net, even though not very much, and then other states where there's like zero. And it's getting very pretty obvious what divides these states. There's a very, very obvious red blue divide. And the quality of life in the blue states is just going to keep outpacing what we have in the red states. And the people in the red states are just going to keep getting more and more radicalized. I don't know. People are talking about civil war and shit like that. This is going to result in a civil war? I don't think so. I don't think we'll ever have a civil war in the United States. Not really. If we did, it won't look like the old Civil War. It'll be more of like a terrorist kind of thing. That's what it'll look like. I don't even think we'd be able to classify that as a civil war, to be honest. I don't think that's going to happen. I just think we will just increasingly become two nations where, you know, basically the Deep South, the former Confederacy, will slowly turn into a different nation where everybody's poor and everything's polluted and everybody can own a firearm but can't get an abortion, won't be able to, like, where things like recreational drugs, which will be legal in the rest of the country, will still be illegal, and they'll start persecuting people for being gay and trans. You know, that's kind of what I think is going to happen. And we'll just have two Americas. I think maybe that might be the best case scenario at this point. I don't think we're ever going to, like, at least probably not for the next couple of decades at least, be able to pull the Deep South and out of the shithole that it's building for itself. You know, um, I don't know. It's really conservative Christian culture. That's what it is. Protestant, like conservative Protestant Christian culture in this country is really what's dragging everything down. See, that looks much better, right? See, because I noticed when I zoom in, it's like a little sloppy, but this is the size that people are going to be like actually viewing it at, and it looks fine like that, right? So, I guess I just need to not stress so much about little tiny details there. Anyway, zoom back in. Let's read a few more comments before we move to Tucker Carlson here. Loose the Hedgehog. Keep in mind that guns are not people. They cannot think, make decisions, or have any rights, but people do. Put it like this: gun control already is the middle ground. Yeah, yeah. It's just it seems like we lose more and more of that little middle ground every day. You know, that's true. Gun control is the middle ground. Um, Kind of seems like that it's a little off center, that middle. So it just really blows me away that we just can't really seem to do anything about it. This shit happens in other countries like Australia. They actually take measures. Australia, they had a big massacre back in the 80s, and they took some measures. They got the number of guns down off of the guns that are on the street down. They outlawed a couple of things. They basically kicked out the NRA, you know. And now, has there been a mass shooting in Australia since then? Like maybe a couple, but are they having them like every fucking day like we are? No, right? And is it illegal to own guns in Australia? Not really. You can still own firearms in Australia. It's just, there's some extra hoops you got to go through. That doesn't mean it's completely fucking outlawed. So what's the problem? How come we can't do that? Right? Gun control doesn't mean gun elimination. It means it's controlled. Well, the same way that like alcohol and tobacco is controlled. You can still buy alcohol, you can still buy like, frickin' tobacco, right? Hell, you can buy fucking marijuana in some of the states in this country, right? Those things are controlled, but people still manage to get their hands on them, don't they? How come we can't do the same thing with guns? I don't understand it. You know. Let's see. Modern Muck movement. I support making illegal to carry guns outside of the house. I would too. Yes. I don't think that you need to carry a weapon like you know. I mean, I can understand like having one in your house, like the castle doctrine. I support that. If someone breaks into your house, it's fair game. That's your house. They have no business being there, you know. And if you shoot them, too bad. That's what I think, right? Outside your house, yeah, there's no reason to do that. Like I used to know a guy years in the past who would carry a pistol with him everywhere he went, you know. And where I live is not a high crime area. I mean, I recently moved. I actually, the place I was at last month was like extremely rich. Believe it or not, I lived in a very, very well off place. I mean, I'm not rich. I lived in a very cheap fucking condo in a very well off town, you know. And, you know, I didn't really move that far away. I mean, it was maybe about, maybe about 12 miles or so. But the part of town I'm in now is a little less, you know, well off, right? But it's still extremely nice. It's extremely nice where I live, you know. And crime is not, you know, through the fucking roof here, right? At all. I mean, it's a little bit higher, like a smidgen higher than where I just was at, but I have no fear walking around at night. I don't worry, you know, like there's no reason for me to want to carry a firearm, you know, and that kind of blew me away. It's like, why the fuck do you have a gun? Like, is someone gonna like mug you and shit? Like, I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't happen here, but the chances of that happening are extremely low. Like, there's no reason, you know, it's not like there are some parts of the country, of course, where crime is super fucking high, like in the deep south, right? Like, mm, like in Georgia or Atlanta or something, like crime is super high there, or Chicago, crime is high in Chicago, right? I can understand that. I mean, even in Los Angeles, you know, there's parts of the inner city in Los Angeles where crime is pretty fucking high. I can understand wanting to be able to protect yourself, you know, but there's really no reason for that. If you don't live in like a super sketchy neighborhood area, if you're not like afraid of like home invasion robbers and shit like that, like if you don't have that kind of thing happening where you live, you know, like there was a time in Los Angeles where there were drive-by shootings all the time, where there was like, you know, carjacking, stuff like that. Like during the 90s when like crack was really big in Los Angeles, like people were getting carjacked, you know, like stuff like that. That doesn't happen anymore. That's not a thing anymore. It's much much safer than it is. And there really is, at least as far as I can tell, like no reason like unless you live in like fucking South Central to like own a weapon. You know what I mean? Like own a gun or carry one outside. I mean, I could see having one in your house just in case you get like, you know, somebody breaks in or some shit, but like carrying one around with you outside, there's no reason to do that. Not here, not anywhere I've ever visited. Like in the world, I mean, I don't know, especially like Texas. You ever been to Texas? Texas is like the cleanest place like ever. You know what I mean? Like I don't understand why people have this need to carry so many guns in Texas. It's like there's fucking nothing there. Number one, nobody lives in like Texas is extremely huge, you know, and it's just a normal place, just like anywhere else. It just everybody has a fucking gun, and you know why? It's like there's not like tons of criminals and gangs and shit in Texas. It's just like normal cities, normal suburbia, like anywhere else. You know, like they make it sound like there's fucking like drug dealers on every corner, and you take your fucking life in your hands when you walk outside, and then you go there and it's like just a normal place. Like, why the fuck does everybody have a fucking like AR-15 hanging off their back? And then what it is, you'll go into a grocery store in Texas and there's like somebody there with a pistol. It's like, the fuck are you doing with that thing? Why do you have it? It doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. I mean, if carrying weapons, open carrying weapons like that prevented mass shootings, I'd support it. But it doesn't prevent mass shootings. All right. This fucking school was in Texas, right? The school was in Texas, the biggest like pro-gun state in the whole country. Where were all the good people with the guns? You know, obviously not fucking there. I don't understand. Anyway, Lewis the Hedgehog. Actually, here's another one. Wait. Um, Lewis the Hedgehog. If my first grade teacher was armed, I would be dead. Yeah, so would I. uh, Sean Nilabud. Even in Pakistan, they don't arm the teachers. Yeah, and you know what? I bet they don't even have school shootings in Pakistan either, do they? School shootings is, I mean, mass shootings, yeah, happen around the world, right? Not nearly to the extent that they happen here, but school shootings are mainly a uniquely American like problem. They don't have school shooting like I was saying, like Brazil has a pretty big problem with gun violence. There's no school shootings in Brazil, right? There's no school shootings in Mexico. There's you know the whole a random disaffected student going and getting their hands on a rifle and then showing up at or a pistol or something and showing up at a school and shooting 16 different students. That's not a thing. You know, that's not a thing that happens anywhere else in the world, right? And you hear all kinds of stories like in Africa and shit about how terrorists will show up and like take over a whole town, that kind of thing, right? Or in Brazil, you have narco terrorists, like fucking drug cartels and shit who will do stuff like that. They'll go into a town and start kidnapping people, stuff like that. You know, you get that kind of stuff happening there. You don't get students, like a student who's just been bullied and everything, showing up at a school and just murdering 16 people. That's like a uniquely American thing, you know. So I don't know. Something about our culture. Something about our culture causes kids to flip out and, get radicalized or just fucking like go crazy and want to fucking hero themselves. It's I don't know. It's the United States. The United States is sick. Our nation is sick. One more. Let's see. Rob Black, 18 is grown up. Well, mostly. Um, 18 is adult. Yes, you should be, responsible at that age, but a lot of people aren't. Let's be real. A lot of people at 18 are still just essentially children, right? And I mean, I know the whole thing is like, well, you have to have a cutoff date somewhere. At some point, you have to decide, okay, you're old enough, you should know better. And we've decided mostly as a country that that age is 18. There are certain things though that are reserved for people who are older. Buying alcohol. We don't let 18-year-old kids buy alcohol. Why? Because they're not really responsible yet, right? Which is funny, which kind of gets me. Like we'll allow an 18-year-old kid to join the army and go off to a different country and murder a bunch of people, but we won't let them buy a beer. We'll let them buy a rifle in Texas so that they can go into a school and kill 14 children. But we won't let them get drunk. They're obviously not responsible enough to control alcohol. But we'll let them have sex on camera. So that their face and name can be everywhere. And that like people in prison can be using their likenesses as currency and shit like that, right? We'll let them do that, but we won't let them go like get a six pack of beer. That always kind of got me. You know what I mean? It's like, is 18 old enough or is it not fucking old enough? Right. Maybe we should limit these other things. Maybe we should make it 21 for all of this shit. I would be in support of that. I would be in support of like, if you're gonna I mean, I guess you can vote at 18 too, but you know, if you have to wait till you're 3 more years to buy a fucking six pack of Miller Lite, Why do we trust people to, why do we trust that person to vote? Why do we trust that person to join the army and shoot people? Why do we trust people? Why do we trust that kid with a pistol that he can legally buy, but not, a case of Miller Lite at a party? Why? I don't understand that shit. You know what I mean? Anyway, oh fuck, did that? Wait a second. Dude, I fucked that up right there. I'm gonna have to erase that. Shit. That big, like, spot right there. That's okay. All right. You know what? We're gonna have to fix that. Anyway, one more. Lewis the Hedgehog. A well-regulated militia is not the same thing as a drooling psychopath. Therefore, the Second Amendment requires gun control. I am not finding anything that I can disagree with in that statement at all. I agree 100%. If only we were able to actually pass something. If only we were able to make our politicians see the same way. All right, guys, 9:34. Let's go ahead and jump into Tucker Carlson here because I want to listen to what he has to say because I'm still a little salty over what happened last week and the white supremacist maniac who killed 12 people in a grocery store. I mean, I know we just had another maniac who killed 14 children in a grade school, so that's old news and everything. But still, I still think Tucker Carlson should be held somewhat responsible for that. So let's go ahead and play this, and let's shrink this down a little. Shut up, Tucker Carlson. Okay. No, pause. Fuck you. Okay, so we need to rewind that. I need to shrink this down some so that YouTube doesn't kill my stream. And let's hit play, turn up the volume.
Tonight. Last May, a 17-year-old high school senior called Peyton Gendron received an assignment in his economics class. The assignment asked, "What do you want to do when you retire?" He answered, "Commit murder-suicide." Gendron's teacher immediately reported his threat to authorities, who sent him to the emergency room for a psychiatric evaluation. Gendron was there for just 20 hours.
Okay, so he's going the it's all mental illness route. That's what he's starting off with here. And, I agree. It is a mental illness to, I think someone who gets a weapon and goes into a grocery store to murder black people could be mentally ill. I agree there, Tucker. Problem is that conservatives and Republicans like to use that as an excuse, but when it comes down to it, when it comes down to actually doing anything about this mental illness that they're always blaming gun massacres on, they never actually want to do anything to stop the mental illness. Like, you know, you would think that if they actually thought that that was the cause of mass shootings, that there would be some Republican in Congress, somewhere in Congress, excuse me, I hit the microphone there. Somebody would have proposed maybe a program spending a little money in order to get people who have mental problems like help, you know? Where's the GOP plan to affect that to do something about this plague of mental illness, which is sweeping the country and forcing people to go out, buy guns, and commit mass shootings, right? Where's their plan? Because last time I checked, conservatives and Republicans were against healthcare for people. They vote down healthcare. They don't like it. They don't want to spend public money on helping people with mental problems not be, crazy anymore. They don't want to do that. They vote that down, right? You know, do they not? Somebody, am I wrong here? Point it out to me if I'm wrong, if there actually is a GOP plan out there to get healthcare to people. in particular, people with mental health problems, is if there is if a GOP mental health problem bill exists, then point it out to me. I want to be wrong here. Please tell me what it is, because as far as I can tell, they're not actually fucking doing anything right about it. As far as I can tell, it just sounds like an excuse that they always say, oh, it's just they're crazy people, they're mentally ill people, and it's an excuse to get people away from talking about gun control. That's what it seems like to me. I don't know. Let's continue.
As he wrote later in his diary, quote, I got out of it because I stuck with the story that I was getting out of class and I just stupidly wrote that down. That's the reason I believe I am still able to purchase guns. But he was lying. Gendron's intention to commit mass murder was, as he later wrote, quote, not a joke. I wrote that down because that's what I was planning to do. And he
Okay.
was. Peyton Gendron was mentally ill. His classmates knew
Mm-hmm.
that. Gendron made strange facial expressions and
Told you. Now I'm going into this blind. I haven't seen this, so I don't know what he's gonna say. But told you he was gonna. It's an excuse. It's an excuse here. So I guarantee you, Tucker Carlson will not say anything at all relating to gun control. If anything, he'll talk about how it's the left wing in this country who wants to take away your rights because of mass shootings. That's probably what he's going to talk about. He's also probably not going to mention the fact, you know, that he himself promoted the same ideas that radicalized Mr. Gendron. I don't know. That's we'll see. But I'm if I were a betting man, I would say that he's going to try to deflect away from the fact that Gendron was spouting the exact same shit that he says on his show every fucking night. Let's see if I'm right.
said odd things in class. Last year, he showed up for school for a full week wearing a hazmat suit. Boots, gloves, everything, recalled another student. Police and school administrators understood perfectly well that Gendron was potentially dangerous. That's why they sent him to the psych ward. Even his own parents must have known that something was very wrong. Gendron's diary describes how his mother helped him bury a cat he had beaten to death in their garage and then beheaded with a hatchet. On Saturday, Peyton Gendron, as you know,
So that actually is something that is a big red flag for like potential serial killers when there's like cruelty to animals. And unfortunately, it kind of fits the MO of this other guy too, Santos, the guy that just engaged in the mass shooting that we just had. Salvador Ramos, that's his name, not Santos, excuse me. Fits his MO too, like we said, he admitted to throwing dead cats at people's houses and shit like that. Right. Massive red flag, massive red flag. If only there was, say, some kind of program that could have done a mental health check on him before he was allowed to buy a firearm. Maybe that could have, I don't know, saved some lives, right? That's a pretty good solution that you will never hear a conservative or a Republican say. That, people who buy firearms should be subjected to mental health checks. You know, I mean, if that's his excuse, if he's trying to say that these people are crazy, that, the result of mass shootings is just because of mental illness, then how come we're not doing that? How come we're not subjecting people who buy guns to mental health checks? I mean, that would fit the problem as they describe it, right? But nope, that's an actual real solution, so we'll never get a conservative actually say that. Moving on.
finally did what he said he would do. He committed mass murder. He opened fire on a crowd of strangers in a Buffalo supermarket. He murdered 10 of them. So, how did the adults around him let this happen? In a country with functioning leadership, we would be asking that question. The signs of mental illness were certainly there. The people in charge missed those signs or didn't take them seriously.
Yeah, in a country with adequate leadership, he wouldn't have been able to buy that gun, right? Let's call it out. Let's actually say it for what it is, folks. We don't have adequate leadership in this country, right? The reason why we don't have adequate leadership in this country is because conservatives don't like it like that. They like the government to be dysfunctional because it fits their narrative. It allows them to strip more and more spending away from the government in order to give it back to their criminal friends in the form of tax breaks, right? So when you have conservatives in charge, nothing ever gets done. And, conservatives are in charge now. It's like, oh, well, we have a Democrat as the president. Yes, but the conservatives are in charge of Congress, right? Democrats are conservative. Okay. The Democratic establishment is conservative. Nancy Pelosi is conservative. All right. She's just not, part of the GOP establishment. The GOP is essentially fascist at this point. They're not just conservatives. They're like borderline, almost mask off fascists. And I think this next election, they really will actually take the mask off for real. This next election, it's really going to happen now. We're going to have actual brown shirts and shit. Just watch. But that's a subject for another stream. But keep in mind, but what I just said though, I think it applies. We are currently living right now with the conservative policies when it comes to these things, when it comes to mental illness, when it comes to healthcare, mental health care, when it comes to gun control, right? We have the conservative policies in place right now, and those policies are to do nothing. That's the conservative policy when it comes to these things, right? That's the conservative, solution to these problems is to do nothing. No gun control, no mental health assessments, no help, no money spent to help people with mental problems, right? It's hard enough to get them to even pay for education in the first place, right? Let alone of making schools safe, let alone trying to prevent tragedies like this from happening. It's the last fucking thing conservatives want to do is to spend even more tax money on things like, I don't know, making sure kids don't get blown away. They don't give a fuck about it. That's what we need to remember. So when Tucker Carlson says, oh, if we had functioning leadership, they'd do something, right? Well, the leadership we have here is dysfunctional because the leadership we have is conservative. That's the actual truth. Anyway, moving on.
Seriously enough, weren't paying close enough attention. In any case, they didn't fix it. They let a killer slip through. So, what did they do wrong with Peyton Gendron, and how can we learn from it? We should learn from it if we want to prevent more mass murders. But that's not at all what our leaders are asking tonight, hardly. Instead, they're asking the only question that ever occurs to them. How exactly can I benefit from this? How can I leverage this tragedy to my advantage?
2 minutes so far, and he has not mentioned the Great Replacement Theory. Very suspicious there. 2 minutes, he hasn't mentioned anything about what's actually motivated Peyton Gendron. Remember, Peyton Gendron wrote a 128-page manifesto that outlined exactly everything that he believed and the reasons why he did it. So it's not like, that was some kind of obscure factoid either. I mean, it's on the front page of every fucking newspaper until today. It was, people were still talking about it until this latest mass shooting, which everyone's promptly forgotten about it, Buffalo. So, kind of sounds like Tucker Carlson is ignoring that fact here, right? And looks like he's just about to blame Democrats for it. So let's continue. Let's rewind it
How
a little
can
bit
other
too.
people's suffering make me? How exactly can I benefit from this? How can I leverage this tragedy to my advantage? How can other people's suffering make me more powerful? It didn't take long for Joe Biden to find a way. Biden
Yep.
flew to Buffalo this morning to speak about what Peyton Gendron did.
Yep. So now he's blaming it on Democrats. He's saying Democrats are using this tragedy for their own, advance their political ideology here. Hmm. Let's listen to how Joe Biden is taking advantage of this, huh? Let's see.
There have been a number of mass murders since Biden became president. Some of them have been racially motivated. A little over a year ago, in fact, there was even another supermarket massacre that happened to have the same casualty total. A Syrian born man murdered 10 people in Boulder, Colorado. He even used the same caliber rifle that patron Gendron brought to Buffalo. But Joe Biden didn't bother to fly to that crime scene. He didn't go to any of them, in fact. Biden went to Buffalo today because he thought he could blame his political opponents for what happened there, which of course he promptly did.
Yeah, keep in mind, so 213 mass shootings, right? If all the president did was fly to every single mass shooting, then that's basically that would be his entire career as a president. If he just went to every single like area where there was a mass shooting and like said the bullshit thoughts and prayers thing, then that's like a full-time job at this point because there's one like every other fucking day. I mean, we're not even through the year. We're not even at the halfway point for the year. It's the 25th. We're not even at like the 6 month point, and there's 213 mass shootings. There's only 365 days in a year already, so it's gonna be like two a day and shit. So that's a little, yeah, oh, Joe Biden didn't give a fuck about that one. Yeah, well, we don't even hear about most of these. It's only when they get like truly egregious, when like, 14 people get murdered in a fucking grade school, that it becomes national news. Because unfortunately, we're so jaded to this shit in this country because it happens all the goddamn time. And let's just never forget the reason why it happens all the time is because Republicans stop gun control. That's the reason why, because Republicans don't want to do anything about fucking gun control. This is why there's mass shootings constantly in this country. So, just want to throw that out there in case anybody's starting to get a little starting to agree with Tucker Carlson here a little bit. Just want to throw that out that the reason why this shit is happening is because half of our population has been brainwashed into thinking that the Second Amendment is the greatest thing since fucking sliced bread. You know, those people that watch Tucker Carlson, right?
Watch.
And other nations ask me, heads of state in other countries, ask me, what's going on? What in God's name happened on January 6th? What happened in Buffalo? What happened? They ask.
January 6th and the Buffalo massacre. So, how is a political protest at the Capitol related to a murder spree by a demented teenager in New York State over the weekend? What do those two events have in common? And who exactly are these unnamed heads of state who are connecting these unconnected events in conversations with Joe Biden?
I'll tell you what they have in common. The same fucking people who tried to take over the country on January 6th are the people who are not doing anything about mass shootings. I mean, yeah, okay, that is a bit of a stretch, claiming, political violence like January 6th is part of the same, you know, um, part of the same issue that causes mass shootings. That is a bit of a stretch, but what Joe Biden just said right there is very non-controversial, right? Basically said, hey, why is there so much violence in the United States and what can we do about it? I like how Carlson here sort of framed that like, oh, he's using this towards his political advantage. I don't know. How can anybody whoa, what's going on? Did I just get cut off? I probably did. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain streaming. God damn it. It seems like everything is just working against me tonight. I don't know, man. Come on, YouTube. I have excellent fucking like streaming access here. I don't want to hear any bullshit. I don't know. Let me know if the stream is getting a little jacked up. Says that we're still going, so we should be okay. Hopefully there won't be too much buffering there. Anyway, let's continue on.
You may have wondered that, but don't ask, because it's not meant to be asked. It is instead a dream sequence. It's a rhetorical device meant to connect everything that might challenge Joe Biden and bunch all of these things together in the same repulsive moral category. January 6th, mass murder, the bubonic plague, it's all the same, it's all bad. And because it's bad, Joe Biden informed us today, after 250 years, we're going to have to suspend the Bill of Rights. And we're going to begin where the Bill of Rights begins, with the freedom of speech.
Suspend the Bill of Rights. Okay, that sounds very interesting. Keep in mind, we are... How far are we in on this now? We are... God damn it. 5 minutes in, right? Zero mention of the Great Replacement Theory. So let's continue. Come on, play.
Streets, our stores, our schools. This venom, this violence cannot be the story of our time. But there are certain things we can do. We can keep assault weapons off our streets. We've done it before.
Okay. Where exactly was the, taking away our freedom of speech part of that? Right? Because that's what Tucker Carlson just said. Tucker Carlson said after 250 years, right, we're going to have to suspend, our rights. Isn't that what he said? Let's rewind it a little bit.
So because a mentally ill...
Shut up.
Well, he's saying that thanks to what happened in Buffalo over the weekend, you no longer have any rights at all, including the most basic, which is to read what you want. After nullifying the First Amendment, Joe Biden moved to the Second Amendment.
Wait. How the fuck does that nullify the First Amendment? Let's rewind that a little bit, right?
The venom.
Even if Gendron had been, quote, radicalized by what he read on the internet, what then exactly?
No, we went
Many
a little...
have been radicalized. Was radicalized by reading Das Kapital.
Okay. Why is this thing like such a pain in the ass to control? Whenever I pause it, it goes out into a... God damn it. This thing is such a fucking piece of shit.
He went on a murder spree.
Quit being a piece of
he
shit.
killed more than 1 million people.
I want to rewind
Should we
this.
ban
There we go.
heads of state who are connecting these non-connected events in conversations with Joe Biden?
Right.
All bad. And because it's bad, Joe Biden informed us today, after 250 years, we're going to have to suspend the Bill of Rights. And we're going to...
Okay. We're going to have to suspend the Bill of Rights. All right. I just want to make sure I've got it clear. According to Tucker Carlson, we have to suspend the Bill of Rights. All right. Let's continue.
Begin where the Bill of Rights begins, with the freedom of speech.
Okay. So now Joe Biden is going to say some shit that suspends the freedom of speech for everyone in the country. All right. Let's listen to what he has to say. Okay.
You can't prevent people from being radicalized to violence, but we can address the relentless exploitation of the internet to recruit and mobilize terrorism.
The relentless...
That's removing your freedom of speech. Trying to do something about 18-year-old kids being, indoctrinated by white supremacists is removing your freedom of speech. Oh my God, did this thing just like... Dude, you piece of shit. Did this just like... Oh my God, I hate Tucker Carlson so much. It advanced to another video. Fuck you, Tucker Carlson. Dude, this has like the worst video player like ever. This video player is like so fucking shitty. Now it's gonna make me watch an ad again. All right, so please, I don't know. It's frustrating as hell. Did they make it shitty on purpose? So that people won't actually watch him? Is that what it is? Like, why is it so fucking shitty? Anyway. So, yeah, I didn't really see a suspension of the freedom of speech there, saying that we should do something to keep children from being radicalized by Nazis on the internet is not taking away your freedom of speech. That has nothing to do with removing your freedom of speech in the slightest at all. And frankly, we already have limits to that kind of speech in the first place. So, seems a little hyperbolic to me. Seems like Tucker Carlson's pulling this out of his asshole. Let's continue. You piece of shit, Tucker Carlson. You're
Peyton
fucking
Gendron
stupid
received an
ass
assignment in
player.
his economics class. The assignment asked, what do you want to do when you
Oh my god, it
retire?
started over.
Me, more powerful.
This thing, you know what? I can't even deal with this. It's like the player is such a piece of shit that it won't stay paused. It keeps moving around. It just moved to another. Did you see that? It just automatically did it. I didn't click on anything. It just, fuck this thing. Fuck this. We're turning this off. I'm sorry, guys. This is embarrassing and fucking stupid. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fuck off. I wanted to watch it. I really wanted to watch it, but his player is so shitty that it wouldn't pause. I guess you know what? I guess next time I'm just gonna have to fucking download it and then go through all this other shit because Fox News doesn't know how to build a goddamn video player. Anyway, well, it's 10 o'clock, guys. Let's read some more comments and then let's end this. So, the lesson here is don't watch Tucker Carlson because his video player is a piece of shit and he's just gonna lie to you. I don't know. I just what tonight I was this is this stream is a little bit this stream is all fucked up. I'm sorry guys. But tonight I was just frustrated, man. It's frustrating because you know it seems like we just go in circles. We just go in circles in this country, and we're talking about the same shit over and over and over. Like I mean a decade ago almost, I was making this same video. I have videos on my channel talking about mass shootings in like 2012, and it just seems like over and over. And you know what it was is that I finally stopped making videos about it because it was like every fucking day. Like it was just happening so often that I was putting out like, I would make roughly 4 videos a month and, like one a week or so. And 3 of them would be about mass shootings. And I actually made a conscious decision like, okay, I'm not going to talk about mass shootings anymore, because it was just so many, right? That's really disturbing. Like, why can't we do something about this? Why can't we, as a country, come together and do something to protect people so that they're not fucking like in danger of getting blown away when they just go to the movies or go to the grocery store or send their kids to school, you know? Or just something else mundane that other people in other countries do without having to worry, you know? I mean, how come we can't figure this shit out? I don't know. Well, I actually do know the reason why we can't figure it out. The reason why we can't figure it out is because Republicans. That's the reason why. And it needs to be emphasized a lot, you know? That's the reason why everything is so fucked up in this country. It's because conservatives and Republicans have fucked it up and don't want to do anything to fix it. That's why. And, the Democrats too, because the Democrats are weak and feckless, but mainly the conservatives are the reason why everything's so shitty. So let's read some comments here. Anyway, let's read some more comments since we stopped watching Tucker Carlson because his fucking player was such a piece of shit. Might as well do something here. Let's see. What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? Where did we end off? When talking about Lewis a Hedgehog. Oh wait, here's another one. Yeah, Lewis a Hedgehog. When talking about gun violence, Rick Santorum said kids should just deal with it. What the hell are they supposed to do? Hold up their hands and magically stop the bullets? Yeah, just deal with it. That's a true quote. I remember Santorum said that, and it's like that was like, I mean, that's like the most like fucking, you know, I mean, middle finger to the face right there. Just deal with it. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that. That was in the news and saying like the most callous, like just sort of, fuck you that you can like throw at people. You know, I mean, kind of glad Rick Santorum has been like, drummed out of politics. That guy was a real piece of shit. He's still out there somewhere, and I hope he watches this video, and I hope he gets butthurt because I think he's a fucking moron. Because fuck him. Anyway, um, but no, what's really sad is that he almost won the nomination back in 2012, right? He came in a pretty close second to Mitt Romney there. So in some alternate universe out there, we could be talking to, President Santorum right now. It could be President Santorum right now up on that pulpit talking about how we can't do anything about mass shootings. You know, that's disturbing. That's a disturbing thought. Let's see. Lewis the Hedgehog, like they can just use the Force like a Jedi, or that this is the Matrix or some shit. How about this? Don't act like a person is the stupidest person you've ever met simply for having a pulse. Uh, yeah, yeah. I don't understand that either. You would think if there was one thing that conservatives and progressives and liberals could agree on, it would be the fact that, children should not have to worry about being blown away when they go to school. Right. You think that they would agree on that at least, like, but apparently not. Apparently we can't even agree on that small little thing. And it's really because the gun lobby owns the right wing in this country. The gun lobby has created a culture of Second Amendment crazy people. It wasn't always like that, you know, decades in the past. I mean, there's always been a gun culture in the United States, but there weren't like the insane gun nut type people. Like that is like something that, was mainly like held off to the fringe. You know what I mean? There used to be like, movies where they would like make fun of that stereotype of like the insane redneck sort of like, gun nut, like wannabe mercenary type. You know what I mean? You would see people making fun of those people like in movies and shit like that in the past. And now it's like mainstream. Now that's like mainstream fucking Republicans are like the crazy stereotype of the gun toting madman from the 80s. You know what I mean? Really kind of fucking sad, dude. The Overton window definitely has moved to the right. Let's see. Lewis the Hedgehog. Tucker Carlson reminds me of the Twilight Zone episode called He's Alive. Never saw that one. But, yeah, he kind of seems like an autonomous, like, you know what he seems like to me? He seems sort of um, like a sentient computer program that like somebody made a chat bot to be like the most like vile racist asshole they can come up with, and then it like came alive, and then somebody like cloned a body for it. like like that's Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is like if a Terminator was real, but instead of murdering people, he was just like a giant douchebag, like a giant like rich boy, like not in my backyard kind of douchebag. Like that's Tucker Carlson. Like it almost doesn't seem like a real human being there, Like he's like basically a sentient like troll bot. Let's see. Moving on. A lot of comments there from Lewis here. Um, let's see. I've seen a gun nut ask, "What's the big deal about rapid fire? Here's a skull of a person killed from a musket. Does that person look less dead to you? Like you can mow down a crowd with a musket. These people must claim to, these people claim to be firearm experts." There is, yeah, that's one of the arguments that you'll get from the right wing is like they'll say things like, here's an argument that I get a lot that you'll hear people, Second Amendment people say things like, well, in the rest of the country there are things like mass stabbings, right? So it's not the guns that causes the mass shootings, it's people, And that's true. There are like for example in China, you'll hear about someone in China will go crazy and break into a shopping mall with like a cleaver and a kitchen knife and run around and stab 22 people or cut 22 people, right? But then you see that none of those people will die. Like, it'll like you'll get a story. It'll say like, crazy person breaks into mall in China, injures 22 people, no casualties. And it's because you can run away from a guy with a knife. If a guy with a knife comes after you, yeah, he can kill you just like somebody with a gun, but he can't stab fucking 14 people to death. Like, you can run away from a person with a knife. You could conceivably gang up on him too. That's another thing. Three or four people can surround a dude with a knife and like, hit him with a chair or some shit, right? Something like that. You can subdue a person with a knife. You can't really do that with a gun. I mean, you can try to tackle him, he'll most likely kill you. That actually happened in the Buffalo shooting, you know. Somebody tried to tackle him. That happened in Christchurch as well, the Christchurch shooting in New Zealand, where and crazy guy fucking killed 50 people in a mosque. Someone tried to tackle him and died, was blown away, right? And it's like, if that guy had a if that guy had a meat cleaver instead of a firearm, 51 people wouldn't be dead right now, and that's just the goddamn truth, right? Because it's like, that's an excuse. That's a bullshit excuse when you hear them say shit like, another thing that they'll say is something like, well, you can just run people over, so we don't ban cars, you can run people over. Like there was this um a couple of attacks in France, a few years back from like ISIS people who they were like you know, running people over on the streets and stuff like that. And yeah, that's true too. Of course, anything can be a weapon, right? But you can't really sneak a Ford Bronco into a grade school and, kill 14 kids with it in the classroom, can you? Right? You can't, take a Pontiac Trans Am into a movie theater and, shoot 16 people while they're watching Batman, right? You remember that one? Remember the Batman movie theater shooting from like 2012? Oh, that's an oldie but goodie, right? Crazy guy fucking pretends he thinks he's the Joker, even though he like dyes his hair the wrong color. Joker's hair is not red, it's green, you idiot. And, sneaks a gun into a movie theater, kills fucking 16 people or whatever it is. Remember that one? Almost forgot about that, huh? You know, the fucking Batman shooting. Wow, those were the days, huh? Seems like it's embarrassing how little has changed since then. We're still talking about this exact same shit, you know. Didn't Sandy Hook happen in 2012 also? It did, didn't it? Sandy Hook was also a grade school where somebody, a maniac, went in with a gun and killed like 20 people, children. I can't remember the exact body count at Sandy Hook. Remember how we, as a country, reacted to Sandy Hook? And how there were just conspiracy theories for years and years and years on end after that, and the actual families of the children there were like, became like the center of conspiracy theories, and you had like Alex Jones and shit saying that it was all a false flag. you know you'd think those people were crazy, right? But now we actually have people in Congress who believe that shit. Marjorie Taylor Greene believes the Sandy Hook conspiracy theory. There's video of her chasing David Hogg around and harassing David Hogg around and trying to claim that it's like, that he was lying and all this other shit. She got elected. She's in the Senate. She actually just won her primary again, like easily. Crushed all the people that came up against her, right? It wasn't even a contest. She won. So now she's basically running again. It's probably going to run unopposed again. Please, somebody run against Marjorie Taylor Greene. Please, for the love of God, somebody please run against her so that at least people can vote against her. Right? Fucking disturbing, man. Let's see. Couple more comments here and then we'll end this. Let's see. Lewis the Hedgehog, they act like the whole of the United States is just like Judge Dredd or something. Hey, Judge Dredd was a good like comic, man. Although I haven't really read most of it. But yes, unfortunately, this is definitely true. The United States is it's not generally a dangerous place to live. It's not like in any given city it's just overrun with drugs and crime. Not really. Even the shitty parts are really not that bad, but I don't know. Kind of seems like the leading. I read somewhere that the leading cause of death now for children is by firearm. And I read somewhere also that more children have been murdered in mass shootings this year than police who have been shot and killed in the line of duty. That's really fucking disturbing. So I don't know. Maybe the United States actually is getting pretty fucking like dangerous. Maybe it is a dangerous place to live if you just happen to go to school. Maybe it's not dangerous if you're not like a child in grade school, right? I don't know. Uh, let's see. There's the hedgehog. If guns protect freedom, why is it harder to vote than to buy a gun? Why do you have to wait in line 8 hours without food or bathroom breaks to buy a gun? Well, obviously, it's because, you can take your voter registration card and rent a hotel room above a country western music concert and shoot 50 people to death with it. I mean, obviously, that voter registration card is a dangerous thing. You guys remember that one? You remember the Las Vegas shooting where that one guy, Trump supporter guy, rented a room above a concert and just fucking unloaded on the people down in the concert there and managed to kill like 50 people before they got him? I mean, damn, that was a pretty bad one. You'd think we would have done something about, you know, some kind of gun control or something after 50 people were murdered at a fucking concert. Nope, we didn't do shit. We didn't do shit. We just did the exact same thing always over and over. The Democrats vaguely speak about gun control and then never do anything. The Republicans don't, they just blame mental illness and then they, offer their thoughts and prayers. That's all that really actually happens. You know, they just pray to God about it. Oh, Lord Jesus, whatever, please stop these mass shootings. Well, if God was real, he doesn't really seem to be fucking doing very much, huh? Maybe the Republicans pissed off God. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why there's so many fucking massacres. Maybe these people are doing it because God told them to. Never really consider that one, huh? Christians, maybe this is divine retribution. Maybe God told this guy to go kill 16 children. Maybe God's a little pissed off because, I don't know, you're taking away people's rights. That could be a reason. Maybe because the environment's fucked up. Or maybe it's just all ridiculous bullshit superstition, and part of the reason why we can't get any effective legislation running in this country is because the ruling party is steeped in this ridiculous backwards ass superstition. And maybe instead of praying to fucking God, we should be doing something about it ourselves. How about that? That's, of course, that's crazy talk. That's crazy talk. I'm just a godless fucking atheist. That's all. I'm a godless whore, and that's why, obviously, I must be mentally ill. I don't understand. Moving on. Jeannie B. Hey, what's up, Jeannie B? We're going nowhere fast until we quit waiting for thoughts and prayers to take effect. Yeah, the thoughts and prayers are never going to take effect. I mean, how much? Maybe we're just not thinking hard enough. Maybe we're not praying hard enough. I guess. I don't understand it. You know how it is. Boys like their toys because dumb chicks who raise them fawn over them. And on and on. Kids raising kids. Hypocrisy gone wild. Child people are the slowest species to evolve. I'm kind of afraid that not only have we stopped evolving, but it might be too late in some respect. That's kind of what I'm afraid of. Here's the thing is that, you know, by the time shit gets really bad, I'm probably going to be very old and will die. You know, by the time I'm 70, 80 years old, you know, in 80, 90, in about 40 or 50 years or so, shit's going to be really bad. Not just in this country, but on Earth, you know. We're already starting to see the beginning of it, the environmental degradation, right? We're seeing that. We're seeing massive wildfires every year, water shortages. They're talking about food shortages now because of the pandemic, because, farmers didn't grow anything because demand was down and all this other shit. So now there's gonna be food riots, whatever. Shit's about to hit the fan here, and it's just gonna get a lot worse. And I will be an old man. But a lot of these other kids, these kids who are teenagers now, the ones who are in their early 20s, they're going to be my age now when everything gets really bad. I have zero confidence in them in order to keep it going. Zero. I the only thing I'm glad at this point is that I will be probably dead before the United States dissolves, you know, before the human race devolves into barbarism, you know. It really did seem like when I was a kid, like in the 80s and the 90s and shit, I I really did think that the future was going to be like Star Trek. You know what I mean? Like I kind of thought I might even see some of that in my lifetime. Like I didn't think we would have shit like warp drive or whatever, right? But there was a time that I was a bit of an optimist, and I thought that we would have super high technology and computers and you know science and all that other shit, and that quality of life would increase. And yeah, there was a lot of, even back then, they were talking about environmentalism and how things were fucked up, but it seemed like people were doing shit back then in order to like make things better. You know what I mean? Seeing how the people that we're electing and the policies they're enacting and how the captains of industry are basically fucking wasting their like resources doing stupid shit like building giant penis rockets and everything instead of helping homeless people. Like it really does seem like we're kind of hopeless, you know. And I think within my lifetime probably, shit's going to fall apart. I don't think it's going to happen until I'm very old. I think I might be like in my 70s when the United States collapses. But I give us 30 years, you know. I don't have a lot of confidence for I don't think that anybody that we're going to elect will be able to save us because I don't think we will ever elect anybody with ideas because the people with actual ideas never get elected. People like Bernie Sanders, for example, Bernie Sanders is never going to be president, right? Forget it. It's over. He's already like fucking 80 years old. That's it. Somebody else who actually has ideas like AOC or whatever, she'll never become president. Like barely ever. I don't even think I don't even think she's going to get like, you know, be a senator for that much longer the way things are going. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's very just it's not only just polarized in this country, but it's sort of like we're going backwards, like, not just socially, but like scientifically as well. We're not rewarding the people with the ideas that can save the world. We're not rewarding those people. We're demonizing those people, you know. I mean, think about if you were AOC, like, she gets constant death threats. Every time she goes outside, there's like people fucking with her, you know. She goes on vacation, somebody takes a picture of her and her boyfriend eating and they complain about his feet. Like, would you want to be in the public eye like that? Would you want to subject yourself to that? To be a senator to try to do the right thing? It's like, No, nobody with a brain is going to subject themselves to that kind of partisan vitriol, right? Like, it's not worth your life. So the people who are going to get elected are people like fucking Ted Cruz, the people that, you know, suck up to the corporate interests, the people that don't have ideas that effectively can, and the people who don't want to change anything, the people who profit off of the current misery and slow destruction of our country and the world, especially when it comes to the environment. Those are the people who are going to get elected, and nothing's going to change. That's what's going to happen. I have zero confidence now. 10 years ago, I had a little bit of confidence. I thought, because we had like Obama in office and it looked like people, like, okay, we made a wrong turn with Bush, but people went the other way and there's, the smart people prevailed, right? The smart people are not prevailing anymore, right? The smart people are starting to just cash out and prepare for the worst. That's what it seems like is happening to me is happening now. You know, the smart people are just basically like, okay, fuck it, batten down the hatches, get a bunch of food ready, and try to like ride out like the coming collapse, while like the elite in this country build penis rockets, right? And and social media platforms and shit like that, you know, while the rest of us are starting to like fucking. I mean, it's gonna be bad. I just zero confidence. I have the economy is gonna be shitty. You won't be able to get by the time I'm 70. Let's say 80 years old, right? I'll be 80 years old roughly in the year. What year is it now? 2022. Roughly 2055. Right around there, I'll be 80 years old, right? By that point, it will be next to impossible to get a job. If the United States is still around, right, it's most likely going to be, you know, a fucking fascist hellhole by that point, right? It will be hard for you to get a job if you're not like, if you don't have the right skill set, if you're not like a computer programmer or some shit, it will be very hard for you to get a job, right? It will be hard for people who are like getting out of school to get their first jobs because all of the normal first jobs that people usually get are going to be automated by that point, you know. So working in a restaurant, that's all going to be robots, working in a grocery store, that's all going to be robots and shit like that. You won't be able to get a job doing anything like that. Bagging groceries, you won't be able to get a job doing that. It's all going to be self-checkout things, or there's going to be like droids or whatever, right? You won't even be able to get a job in 40 years driving an Uber or delivering food because it's going to be automated. Automatic fucking cars that drive themselves with like Boston Dynamic style robots that are going to like get out and deliver your food for you. You're not going to be able to do any of that either. So what are people going to do? Even the people that go to school that get the education, they're not going to be able to get a job doing the simplest fucking things in order to. How are you going to go to school if you can't get a job to pay for your way to go to school? It's like not going to be possible, right? This is what we're coming at, let alone the fact that, the environment is going to be all fucked up in 40 years. It's already fucked up now. It's already bad now. The environment is already like, they're talking about global warming and the tipping point. We're past that now. It's kind of too late. In order to stop the worst of what global warming has to offer, it is too late now. You know, now we're at the point now where we just need to, try to keep it from getting any worse. That's where we're at now. It's the preventing global warming is already we're past that. We've already gone past the point of no return there. There is no preventing global warming now. There is only how bad is it going to be, right? And I have no confidence that we will do anything as a country to stop that from happening. So, massive wildfires every year, droughts that go on for decades. We're already seeing shit like that. Water becoming a precious commodity and all that. Mass extinction of species, and not just like, the fucking desert mole shrew or something like that, or not just exotic shit like fucking, the white rhinos, which white rhinos are now extinct. I don't know if you knew that. The last male white rhino is dead. So bye bye white rhinos. It won't even be just those types of exotic animals. It'll be shit like honeybees, you know, butterflies, ground squirrels, things like that. Things, ordinary small things that we need, you know, tree beetles, things that animals that keep like ecosystems going in the United States, like normal ordinary ecosystems, things that we depend upon for food production. That shit's gonna be like, when there's no more bees left, there will be no more agriculture. Like say bye bye to things to like, any sort of flowering plants like tomatoes, like fucking fruit, every fruit, you know, pretty much, right? Like things like almonds, coffee, forget it. Coffee is going extinct. I don't know if you guys have heard about that. Coffee is going extinct, right? It's getting harder and harder every year to that coffee harvest is getting smaller and smaller, you know. I mean, there'll be coffee. It'll just be extremely expensive because only rich people will be able to afford it. And that's what life is going to be like in 40 years when I'm 80 years old. They'll still have things like beef and fish and all that stuff. It'll just be extremely expensive. And what are the rest of us? What are we gonna eat? What are the rest of us gonna eat? Corn and fucking ground up earthworms or something. I don't even know. Right? You know, this is what we're facing, folks. This is what we're facing with and who's doing anything about it? The people that would do something about it are the people that we don't vote for. They don't get elected, you know. When they do get elected, they're like basically ridiculed until they quit, right? Like, I mean, how many progressives do we have in Congress? You can count them on one finger, the squad. That's it. That's not enough, you know. 5, 6 people in like one house of Congress is not enough to do shit to do anything for this country. So there's not much we can do. And you hear people talking about solutions and they say shit like, well, don't rely on electoral politics. Just go and do it yourself. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's great. Okay, plant a tree, start a business and whatever. Shit like that. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Great. Do that. But that's not going to solve all of our problems. Yes, there are things you can do to try to help your country and the world. And, you shouldn't rely directly on electoral politics, right? But you shouldn't have to do that. We should be able to vote for people who would fix these problems. That's what they're fucking there for. Number one. That's what they're there for. That's what our government is there for. Our government is there to help us, you know, provide for the general welfare. Says it right fucking there. So that's the first thing, right? Second thing about that is that it's great if you're going off and doing your tree planting initiative or whatever. It's not going to stop, the millions upon millions of tons of pollution that get thrown into the atmosphere and the oceans by industry every year, right? There's nothing you can do to stop that. There's no direct action you can take to stop that. There's no boycott you can do to stop that. It's not possible. The only people that can stop that is the government, regulation, right? It's the biggest tool in the shed. We should be using it to our advantage, right? And I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're essentially screwed. So I don't know, folks. I mean, it doesn't mean give up. Like, obviously, don't give up. No, do what you can do to make the world a better place, whether that's directly, whether that's through direct action of your own, whether that's through electoral politics. I'm leaning through electoral politics myself. You know, that's where I think we can make the biggest amount of change in the smallest amount of time because we're running out of time. That's I don't know. I don't mean to sound like a pessimist because I'm really not a pessimist. You know, I really do think I just think that by the time it gets bad enough for people to get their shit together, it's going to be too late. And you can always turn it around, and even then, it might even be better in the end. Once shit starts to collapse, it might even be better when people finally get motivated to start taking these problems seriously, right? Ultimately, afterwards, we might eventually end up in that sort of Star Trek type utopia, but the journey there is not going to be fun. And, this is all going to happen after I'm dead. I'll be long gone, having lived my life during the golden age of human civilization. So, sorry for anybody out there watching this video in the year 2500 or 3000 or whatever. Sorry that the world was so fucked up for you guys. Some of us tried to stop it. Anyway, guys, Jeannie B, bust a deal, face the wheel, exactly. Yep, well, Border Town doesn't seem like that bad of a place to live, right? So, anyway, that was a great movie. I want to watch that again. Anyway, guys, I'm out of here. It's already 10:30. We went way longer than I thought I was going to go. Sorry this stream was so fucked up, but that's what happens when you don't plan stuff, right? I guess the lesson is next time don't try to watch Fox News on a stream. Just download the video and put it on YouTube or something. Watch it that way. You guys know the whole spiel, blah 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 blah. Check out my webcomic, etc., etc. I'll just put links down in the thing. Please like and subscribe, etc., etc. Anyway, guys, I'll see you on Saturday. I'm out of here.